What up, y'all? It's your boy Ben here. We're back again with another Pokemon Pocket video for you all. As you can see, tournaments are happening, right? They're happening. These are the completed ones. There are some that are going on today as well for the 4th. So what we really want to do with this video is just kind of check out the high win rates of some new decks that have like potential, decks that like kind of done well in these tournaments that are like your typical decks. There is one towards the end that is just kind of a stinker, and I like don't know how I feel about the fact that it's propping up, but we're gonna get to that, so make sure you watch till the end. And so if you like the vibes of this channel and definitely are into these like newer style and upcoming decks, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and definitely click that notification bell button so that you do not miss out on a thing. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into deck number 1. And this Guzzlord Celesteela deck is just kind of running rampant here, right? Like this is like, I'm going to hit a grind core, I'm going to then just continue to bubble up, and then I'm going to hit the Tyrannical Hole, and then I'm going to Lucamine up, so that way I can just go on to my other Guzzlord and just attack for 120. My will here allows me to ensure that I'm slowing you down with the grind core, and Celesteela is to potentially pivot so that way you can keep things alive while you're trying to build things up as well too. So this has been like, I've seen it in ranked pop up a little bit. It's done really well. It's just been able to just kind of hit things. You're going into some of those Espeon Sylveon decks pretty well as well, but just this idea of limiting what your opponent can do if you're rolling high, especially with the addition of will, helps you out a lot in terms of stalling, so that way you can naturally get to this Tyrannical Hole. You are 67% chance of getting to Guzzlord, and even in the case with Celesteela, like you get to use the Ultra Thrusters just to make sure that this is up there right away. Rocky Helmet is meant for the Guzzlord to continue to chip away at that damage, so by the time that you do hit this Tyrannical Hole, you are knocking out that first Pokemon. And if they're trying to set up with babies, which we're actually going to get into, babies have been doing their thing more often, especially with this addition of Mantech, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But this like knocks out babies right away, which is like pretty cool. And then you only have to deal with an EX, which is typically the case with babies are trying to set up here. So I just kind of like this. You're trying to stay alive as much as you can. You're trying to do damage as much as you can, getting to that Tyrannical Hole, which is a crazy name for a Pokemon move, and just attacking and building up your second Guzzlord. It's really interesting here that like it's just a matter of just bulking up here, and like Sabrina's and Cyrus's don't really matter because your ability Ultra Thrusters really is helpful in getting you back into the swing of things without missing a beat, without having to sacrifice your energy there. Up next, we have this Poliwrath EX deck that I'm very curious about, and it's kind of like just all in on this idea of getting Poliwrath EX built up here. So just like a couple of things here, because I feel like these are a couple of cards that aren't really like talked about as often, which is like pretty cool to see that this all-in Poly deck did really well, right? So, for those of you who don't know, Politoed, its ability Lordly Cheering, as long as it's on your bench, lets your Pokemon that evolve from Poliwhirl do plus 40 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So that is here, and this needs to be on the bench in order for it to be active, but you have one of these ready to go. 2 energy to attack you due to 1 water energy, and then you do have your Poliwrath EX. 180 HP is no joke here, but you have Hydro Knuckle, which does 40 more damage as long as you just have 1 water energy attached to it. And then, so if you have this in combination with Politoed on the bench, you are dealing 180 per turn. Right, but that does require a lot of setup, right? Like it is 2 stage 2s here. You do have this water, but when we like focus all in, your Poliwag is calling for your other Poliwag, and that is like kind of like where you're looking for your Pokemon here. You have 2 Mantike, so you're going to get the water energy. That is what you're looking for. Iono hasn't seen like a lot of play as of late because of how much draw power that there's been, but Iono is really still good to search for those other pieces that you need. Rare Candy and Poliwhirl to just ensure that you're like building up towards something here. And this deck, believe it or not, is typically only running fighting energy because you are generating that water through the Mantiques, and you have this idea of letting 2 Mantiques go down, possibly while you're setting up for your Poliwrath or looking for it as well too, so it's okay for that to happen. Poliwhirl here is just to give you a little bit more HP. Your Lily here is really just meant for your Poliwrath Guzma, just to ensure that there's no saving grace for anyone, or even rocky helmets that like may take your way out of there. So pretty strong. Not a lot of things can last 180 HP when this deck is going as well too. So shout out to this piloter being able to take this deck pretty well. Up next we have Savali Altaria here. So we've recently done, if you haven't seen it, a deck list with Lugia EX and Altaria, really taking advantage of the Splashy Toss, the Magby. You're probably running just those 2 energies. You could be running a 3rd energy, like you could run Lightning and Water or whatever. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you can just throw in all of them. You could even, for fun facts, like do Psychic and Grass energy or Fighting energy with this deck, because you're going to guarantee that it's always different with the Magby and the Mantike as well too. So that way, if it's a water and you only have a baby one, that's the case. I'm not sure what the opponent has done in the deck, but like that's something to think about just to ensure that you're always having a different style of energy. But with that being the case here, you do have these mons which love colorless energy, right? Like, Savali, you just need 2. There's your support. Like, really, like you're just running supporters here, so that way you can attack for 100. Altaria, give it a fire and a water energy, and you're attacking. So these, there's so many of them. So 2 Savalis, 2 Altarias, attacking for 100 for just 2 energy, very low to the ground, getting that up, and you're attacking right away. Being able to have a baby, so that way you can turn 2 and be able to attack right away, is also pretty fire. You know, no pun intended, so to speak, but like, that's the beautiful part about this, is that you have 2 stage 1s that are attacking for 100 for 2 energy, and being able to support in of itself a lot of supporters that can help you win games, right? Like, not everyone's not living 100 damage, and even if you knock out this Pokemon, you have to deal with more non-EXs, so you have to deal with three of these mons that are like dealing 100 to 200 before they get taken out. So that's really cool to see this in use as well. Up next is, again, like I told you, babies are doing their thing. So what we have here is double Pichu, 1 Mantike, 1 Magby, 2 Arceus EX, 2 Darkrai EX, 2 Kamala. So now you're probably thinking to yourself, that's a lot of Pokemon, right? Like, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 Pokemon, but it's okay because this does actually pan out really well. The idea here is that you are using your babies to turbo up your big bad guys, right? Like your basic Arceus EX, because you have so many basics, you're attacking for 130 consistently, right? Like, there's like no way that you don't have that. And for your Darkrai EX, this is running only dark energy. And that way you can ping and then be able to attack here. The Kamala here is taking advantage of being a basic Pokemon that attacks for 70, so that way you one-shot Oricorios. And even if you like brick like on your big attackers, not a lot of Pokemon are living 140 in 2 turns. Not a lot of Pokemon are living, you know, 140 or 160 because you have the red tier, right? Like the red here is to really support the Kamala here, but then also making sure that like you're taking out the Suicunes or you're taking out the Giratinas, right? These bigger pieces, if you don't have these both in combination. What's really lovely is if you can power up your Arceus EX and then ping away with Darkrai, because then these 2 combine for 150, and then red is there for 170. So if you have a Giratina or an Espeon or a Sylveon that's like hitting 160, you can still take them out through that piece as well. So that's what's really nice here to do that. Yes, there is a world where you can like just only have babies, or like have no babies but just have these, but like that's fine. You have Leaf to help course correct, so that way if you do start on like your big bad basic here, you can always Leaf out into your Pichu. So overall, the idea on paper really works well, so that way you can like start attacking for that high damage super early, and we are seeing that it did do well in tournaments as well too. So this may come like more often than not, as well as like as a means of what people are focusing on to play. But this is really, I think the idea behind this is really cool, and like this is for one I'm excited to try out. Then we continue. This is like, it's not rampant yet, so just kind of still want to showcase this last Tyro getting some love here. This slappy knuckle here, 20 damage you get to attack, so that way your grass is being fed into here. Celebi with red is very interesting. Just saw this play out where like you do get the 60 damage onto the EX, which means the basic that it goes down to, because you know people love to rare candy, or like if it's a stage 1 going down into that basic, does take that 60 damage anyways. So that is kind of like where the health like kind of staggers out for those basic mons. Like the highest I feel like is 60. Let me know if there are other ones. I think there's some 70 ones, but there's like 2 energies in order to attack, but typically we see 60 HP basic mons out in play now, and so like that builds out, and so they get knocked out. So now that stage 1 or stage 2 is kind of like a dead card in their hand, and then you have Masquerada to also attack these EXs for 130, possibly 150 as well too. You get your Giovanni to like clear out Oricorio. It's just like, it feels good. Even Tyro slapping Oricorio and taking that out in 2 because you're doing 40 for 0 energy is like really nice here. And just so that way you can see how many leaf capes that we have involved in this is just 1. So that way you can like power up this, but you have your healing here, you have your Sabrina, you have your Giovanni, you have your Cyrus. I feel like those are like you're coupled up here, but like this combination of 130 or devolving Pokemon while chipping away with this 20 puts folks into range, so that way the Celebi hit or the Masquerada hit does take them out, so that way you're not wasting a lot of time or losing a lot of cards in that sense as well. Then we continue in here with Donphan EX Rampardos. I think the Memory Light here is finally showing them some love here for both of these. Either one Pokemon getting this Memory Light feels really good. If you hit an EX for 130 and then you Memory Light this Rampardos and then attack it for 50, that gets knocked out. 150 stays for your Rampardos. If you're getting damaged in the beginning from Phanpy as you're building up your Gigantic Press to hit for 110 later, you then get to Memory Light, hit it with Flail, and go from there. So seeing what your board state is, seeing what's in the lead, typically hold on to the Memory Light so that way you know what's going on. This also can come as a surprise to folks because Memory Light still isn't like a vastly used card, so it can sometimes win you games based off of the surprise factor, right? Like folks are like, if you're down to like 50 HP on Rampardos and someone has one Pokemon left and they're like, oh, we're gonna tie here, Memory Light, hit them with the Cranidos, and then like you still live. Like that's pretty cool. Same thing with Flail. People are not even thinking about the Flail anymore. They might have that. Some people might think about it, but somebody might not. So being able to catch people off guard for a card that's not set in stone in people's minds yet is pretty cool, and like one of the advantages of this deck. Rampardos is still a trooper here, still a rock star fighting type Pokemon, and I think with the Memory Light added into this condition to help it out with its health, or also with Donphan in here, is super helpful. Definitely some healing, some Sabrinas, and all the other fun pieces, but this is a great combination. A little boost with the Memory Light here. We continue, and now we're starting to like dive into some of these legendary beasts that we all know and love. A different variation of the Raikou EX. We've played 2 different variations so far on the channel, but like they're continuing to play around and find different successes of different combinations of lightning Pokemon for this card. And one of the great things to support a legendary beast or legendary cat, I still can't get myself to say dog, but is to use this legendary pulse so that way you can get into your stage 2s, and with Magnezone needing its stage 1, so you really are running 6 cards for this slot. Having this fact that you're drawing is huge, right? Oricorio is here just because like it's a lightning deck, why not have one? So especially like in this deck, I think there's one variation that runs Tapu Koko, which is on the channel, that doesn't have it because you're all about quickness and speed, and you don't want to build up, you know, the 50. You want to get into attacking. Whereas this deck, where you might need some time to get your stage 2 going. You know, like you need your Volt Charge, you need all those pieces. So Oricorio can save you some time in that sense as well too. But either way, Magnezone's great card. Raikou EX, great card. Oricorio, bane of my existence, but great card as well. Putting them together, getting results. No surprise there, but this is something that hasn't been continued to be explored, and kind of exciting to see that it's built up here. Next up is Suicune, yes, but no Greninja here, right? No Greninja is focusing on the healing aspect of Milotic here, and then doing some damage with your Pimikyu. So this is really cool on another part where you essentially can go 1-1-2, or you can have this up front, and when this is ready to go, like almost ready to go down, you can heal it up with the healing ripples, retreat it, leave the Pimikyu up there, chip away for 20, and then make sure that they also get the 60 Suicune comes back in here. So this is pretty nice. There are just 6 basics here, and like I feel like that's fine. I feel like you don't really like you're already threatening your damage here. You're damaging 60 and whatever else that they're playing, but I think the Suicune effect takes into place where they are trying not to help you out with your damage output, so you get to control the board in that sense. Pimikyu being its own little mini wall here, with the idea that the opponent is losing 50 damage, and then you get to heal up here. I wonder, like, you can also, if they bring you down just a little bit, if you're healing a Ripple this Pokemon, because like this only like loses out to, so like Greninjas, for example, can chip away this in 3 turns, you heal it up, and then continue to attack the front. So you can do some little cheeky things like that, just so that way that doesn't happen. But this is all about survivability here. You have your Milotic, you have your Giant Cape, you have your Irida. You want your Suicune to be your big damage dealers, but Milotic here can take out things like a Oricorio from chip damage from Pimikyu, and then they're definitely in range for that 60 from there. And now, I warned you in the beginning that like I didn't want to see this evolve into something, but like here we go, brace yourselves. But this is now starting to come out. It is, you know, like Suicune EX with Greninja is forming itself into one of the best decks that we have in the game. But now they're throwing in Giratina, and now they're also throwing in Oricorio while only running water energy. They're just throwing Oricorio to prevent the other folks from playing the game, and like you're getting yourself your cards, you're getting yourself your Giratina going up, and then you can retreat it, let it go down, and then either attack with Giratina, attack with Suicune, chip away with your own Greninja. So this is like one of those ones where it's just kind of like, ooh, did you need to add the Oricorio? But folks are finding success with these 2 additions into this ability here as more of a support and another means of being able to do high damage when your opponent is like playing like a Darkrai, Giratina, where like they don't need to necessarily fill out the bench, and they won't ever do that either. So this is just a good way to counter those like higher density EX decks, and hitting those higher outreach that Suicune may not be able to get to from there. So yeah, y'all, let me know what y'all think. Excited to see this continue to build out as we continue on and getting more into the season. Let me know if you're playing a deck that hasn't made it into this video. I would love to know what it is. Let me know, comment down below, and who knows, maybe we'll take it out for a spin. All right, y'all, thank y'all so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.